I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. It's 6 o'clock, and for the purpose of taking minutes, and we've put a camera in the back with the help of Ryan here so that we can record, so we don't have to write minutes down, but don't be intimidated by the camera. I mean, there's a couple microphones out here too, but
that's why we're here.
Yeah, you're going to get. Yeah, we're talking about broadcasting more about town government and town public meetings. So this works as a good example. Introduce again the panel. I think I should do that for the benefit of anybody who'll be viewing this after the recording. So my name is Paul LaPennis. I'm the chairman of the West Brookfield Cable Access Community TV Station, WBCAC TV, something like that. And I've been at this for some time now, and with limited progress and success, but we're hoping for more. Ryan Shepard is the long-term committeeman who's been with me ever since the beginning, about a little more than 2 years ago. Eric is our newest committee member.
As of tonight.
Yes. And he's former chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and he's our governmental representative, even if it's retired governmental. And Bill Solomon is our specialized town council for this committee, largely because of the negotiation that we have to do with Spectrum to renegotiate a 10-year contract that is expired with Spectrum. So each person will have some portion of this time to present a little more about themselves. But I thought I'd start with doing something, some history of my relationship with the studio. So I've always had a deep appreciation and awareness for community TV. Donna and I lived in the town of Munson for almost 30 years, and I owned a business, and I was in the Chamber of Commerce, and we found that Impact, the company that Ryan works for now, that's the Munson Palmer Access TV. They served us well in promoting our town's activities, the school board. We got used to watching the things that we found interesting on our own TV through our subscriptions with the cable company. And so when we moved here 13 years ago, we were happy to see cable TV here, and we watched it when it was appropriate and interesting to us. And we didn't notice exactly when it disappeared, but it was sometime around 2017. And as we approach, we start missing it some. We start asking questions to friends and neighbors, and nobody seems to know why it disappeared, but it's just stopped broadcasting. And then COVID hits, and we miss it even more. And then after COVID, it's got to be real curiosity for me, and I started asking some serious questions, and I went to town offices. Nobody could explain anything there. Nobody remembers who was in charge and where the key is, and is there even a studio in the building right now? And so I started asking around other cable TV stations, and I got quite a bit of experience in learning the vocabulary of franchise agreements and TV studio broadcasting. And that's when I approached the town and said, you know what, is there a key to the building upstairs? And the town administrator at the time discovered a key. We went upstairs together. We unlocked a door, and we found about $100,000 or more of video equipment, field equipment, and broadcasting equipment that had been sitting unheated and unair conditioned for some 6 or 7 years. Not sure of what the results were. The investigation started. Now it's detective work. Now I start a committee. Ryan joins me early on, and we start the investigation. And with all that we've learned, we're still here without broadcasting, without access to our money. When I started this, there was some $80,000 in a PEG account in the town accountant, in the treasury here in town, isolated and identified by the letters PEG, Public Education and Governmental Franchise Fees. but we couldn't get it out for reasons of state auditing and then warrants and articles and budgets and how much do you need and what'll it take to get the studio going, and we couldn't figure that out because we couldn't test the equipment because we didn't have an internet connection up there. So it's been round robin all this time, and finally we're here with we got a stipend from the Board of Selectmen to hire a town council. And we've got a warrant on the articles coming up in, is it an article on the warrant coming up the annual town meeting? And we're looking that this can be our year to break over the bridge and start looking into a renewed contract and a marginally operating studio by the end of the summer. So that's where I've been with this committee administratively, but I have no idea what Ryan talks about when he's talking about equipment. Okay, so you want to give a couple of minutes of
Sure. You
background?
want to take a breather?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's I will.
Can I ask a question?
Sure. Yeah.
No. Yes.
Isn't video equipment wireless, or do you still need this $100,000 type of equipment if it's no good? Do you need, technology's changed, Ryan, or maybe you can
Yeah.
answer it?
So
You know where I'm going with it? They have doorbell cameras and
Yeah.
things that can just, I think in the town hall when I'm in meetings, I know there's a video cameras that I think are there.
Yeah,
recall.
we're kind of going through piece by piece what's up there and what's still usable today and what isn't. A lot of it's old, and will need to be replaced. Some of it still works, and we're working with contractors to help us figure that out exactly what
Okay.
works, and the vendors of there's a broadcast server that actually pushes the video out to the cable TV channel. So what we're hoping is that we're going to be able to use that short term
Yeah.
and then upgrade it later on when it needs to be upgraded. Hope maybe it'll last a really long time. Some of these things last. It's been sitting up there not being used, so that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Depends on
So
when we dig into it.
the equipment today isn't necessarily what's been in storage since 2017, or
So
do you need the same type of equipment, or is the technology change where you put a wireless
it's
camera in the room and switch it on when the meeting starts?
most video today isn't wireless yet. Audio is wireless. We use these are wireless microphones, so wireless audio is a common thing. A wireless video isn't as reliable as it needs to be for live broadcasting and stuff like that. So today, if we were to go in there and redo everything, it would still be wired. It would be probably networked, over internet wires, like Ethernet and stuff like that, as opposed to a dedicated video wire or something like that. And that's the standard of what
Is
we
that
do
all
today.
pre-existing in the building now? Do you know?
So they had a wired up studio, when the select board meeting room was in the basement. That was all wired up, but then that room got reused. So all of that equipment got taken out, and it's no longer. It's old. It might be able to be used, but the new meeting room would have to be rewired for to start doing live broadcasting and stuff. And that's one of the things that we're working with our contractor to figure out.
Well, there's two ways we have to broadcast. We have to broadcast through the TV stations that are provided to us by
They'll be
Spectrum.
their own channel.
Yeah, channel 92 or 94. And so that's where we need the broadcast equipment to send a feed out to Spectrum. So they send it back through that TV station, that TV channel.
Yeah.
And then we need to satisfy the non-subscribers to TV service in town to provide them live feeds of these meetings through their streaming services. So we've got a double issue there that we need equipment for that can do all of that stuff.
Okay,
And it's talking to Spectrum, which is a big part of that,
yeah,
and getting the feedback.
that's great, thank you.
Yeah. So I came on, as Paul said, as more of a technical person. I've worked at Impact, the Munson Palmer public access for like 12 years now. And so I bring in a lot of experience on what a long-running public access station can offer. And, there's the main things that we're used to public access station offering, which is like covering government meetings and school committees and things like that. There's also like a smaller component of it, which is a community calendar, which is like a rolling text announcements that from local organizations and the town government on when's election day and what's coming up with at the church, when's the farmers market starting and stuff like that. And those can be submitted to us from those organizations, and they can be on the TV so people can follow that. And then there's the public access side of it, which is covering those events, covering the farmers market, covering like the bandstand concerts and other organizations in town and their events. And for us it's going to be a step process. We're starting with primary focusing on the government meetings, the selectmen meetings. The community calendar is a small portion of it, so that's probably something that we would be able to do short term. And then the public access part of it, that's that can be time consuming and take up a lot of like a station manager or any employee's time. So where we are with funding right now, how much of that we're actually going to be able to do is going to be dependent on where we can fit that in, or if we get community volunteers to cover these events, because anybody that's interested in learning how to use a camera can be trained, and like somebody from one of these organizations could learn to use a camera, have it filmed, and then have it on TV. So that's kind of like where we're looking in terms of a timeline with actually getting content on TV. We are, like I said before, working with a contractor. We're actually meeting them tomorrow to assess a few locations around town for other places where we can install camera systems, because like the town meeting happens at the elementary school. So if we could get a permanent camera install there, that would make it a lot easier for us to broadcast those meetings, as opposed to what we're doing now, which is recording them and then putting them on YouTube later so people can watch them later. But if we could broadcast them live, that would be a lot better for the townspeople to watch.
Do they get many views, do you know? In your town in Munson?
In Munson and Palmer. Yeah.
They do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
would that take away from the public going to the meetings? Would they sit home and would that take away from the people that are already not really
It seems like it's a two-way thing. When people see it on TV, then there are people that want to go down to the meetings are like, oh, I'll go down to the meetings because I want to voice my opinion, because that's what you would go to the meeting to do, like a select board meeting, to have something to say. But if you just want to be informed, then you can just watch it at home and don't have to go down to the meetings.
Yeah, I would say too that there's a lot of elderly people in town, myself one of them, but like for instance, my husband's mother is almost 98. She doesn't go out, period. And so people would be able to see what's going on for real, at
Their
live.
vote counts too.
Right, and
Yeah,
their vote
that's the
counts.
thing.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
And
Yeah,
Informed
that
vote.
would be a huge benefit. That would be.
And in long term, it's it's a record of it, so people can go back and see what was talked about a particular issue, a few months back or a year back, and then make sure it's being followed up on and all that kind of stuff. So it's really something that helps transparency with government and everything like that. So that's why, and it's also for us, it's right now anyway, getting the select board meetings covered is the easiest thing to do because it all happens at the town hall. So, and that's where our studio is. So wiring that up and getting it all working is the best thing to do first, and then go from there on how we want to expand and
Great.
everything.
Thank you, Ryan. I'd like to move it, segue over to Eric, because I think one of the question that you asked is one that I think Eric might enjoy answering, and is, would TV broadcasting of meetings actually enhance attendance in meetings or detract from? And I think that the more we see you guys on your faces on camera would want to be there.
Absolutely. No, I think you had a point. It's much more likely, I think, seeing what happens and wanting to contribute would be a very positive thing for the town. When I first came in as selectman, it was on my agenda to really focus on transparency, and the cable system has been a bane to our existence for quite a while. When this guy came along, it was like, finally we've got, there were so many things to solve. Of course the website was a huge problem. The first 2 years we had no TA. Now, that has solved, and then the wheels began to turn. And of course, Paul came in and was not able to, we were not able to get that on that first meeting. That was quite a bit of frustration for all of us. But very, very happy that we're finally getting moving just as I go out the door.
We'll tell you, it's on my list too, like, it needs to get done.
Yes, oh, absolutely. And at least now we have a situation where it can
It
move
needs to keep
forward.
moving forward.
Yes, keep it going.
So anything else you'd like to add from government?
I am here to first of all, this is my first meeting with you. And I'm learning, just listening to a lot of things that, of course, as an arts person, I was a teacher of music for years and years and years.
Right.
And this is a very important, not just for the meetings, but I'm looking forward to seeing it proceed beyond that.
All right. Well, great. We have more questions and answers will happen as we go along. Bill, can you contribute something mostly about the contract, I guess, because that's, we started out this whole investigation committee assuming that we would get franchise fees from Comcast or Spectrum forever. And part of the answer to your question about do we need to spend so much money on just operating broadcasting equipment or buying broadcasting equipment, we need operating expenses to hire a person who manages that TV studio with whatever help they need using the broadcast system and the recording devices. Right now, we get less than $20,000 a year from Spectrum. The fact that we've accumulated over about $140,000 is that because of a 7-year hiatus, spending no money. And we're going to need a portion of that money for capital build out. We may have to replace a lot of this equipment in the short term. And we're looking at Bill to help us negotiate franchise fees for the next 10 years to compensate for this expired contract. So, Bill, that's what you're here for.
Let me just see what I can say that might help for now for tonight, and I can speak further. When PEG Access, Public Education and Government Access, was operated, it was operated through the town. Is that correct? As opposed to a nonprofit?
Yes.
Okay. And going forward, it's going to be, at least unless the decision is made differently, it's going to be operated through the town.
So far, that's all we can envision.
Right. And so that would then be might be a town employee, could set it up as a contractor, but you'd be a person.
In the past, it was a contractor, right? It was contractual,
Contractual
part-time,
who would do it, yeah.
no benefits person.
Right. All right. Well, let me just say that I work across the state. I've done cable TV work since maybe 1989. I was town council for Stoneham for 30 years, and that's how I began it. They had two cable companies, Continental, which is now Media One, and Time Warner, which served a small portion of the town through Melrose. So what I would say is that a community that has good community television, I'll call it that rather than PEG access, is a community that's hitting on a lot of cylinders. The community that's working together, in a tough age of social media and all sorts of things, challenges. Communities pulling together to try to figure out what matters and how to make a difference. And there are communities like the Tennessee Conk or North Adams have had community television for 40, 50 years. And those places, I always think it was like Brigadoon. They would disappear if it wasn't for the people in that community making those communities what it is. I once did the Concord license, and they had a company-run studio, and not many people there, and we had a hearing, and like maybe one person came, and people said to me, this is really not going to be an interest. We don't think we get volunteers. I think Concord. I mean, how many organizations and associations, how can't Concord be able to succeed, with all the arts and historical. And 9 months later, headline in the paper about the access and what a great program and how many people involved. So, it's a reflection of a community, but it also is something that you can build your community with. And the more people we can get involved in ways that we can document in this cable licensing process, the more effective that process will be. The challenge is that, as you know, people are cutting and shaving the cable cord. People are going to streaming. And there's no company that's more conscious of that has 1.5 feet out the door than Charter. Like always, Charter always says what they are. And so we have a challenge with that. But we can do our best, and we can have some success. But to do that here in West Brookfield, we have to show that there's an interest. There are real people who've described and explained why community television is something important going forward. Because otherwise we would be faced with, well, the town hasn't had it for 7 years. Why would we want to give you any money? So that we want to build that process in different ways to make that case. Because if they know it matters to people in the town, to the elected officials, then they know they can't just, get away totally on the cheap and try to give you nothing. So I think, in order for the committee to succeed and the board to succeed, and are you with the select board now or board of selectmen?
It's called, I called it the select board, but because I don't like board of selectmen.
But what's the official name?
It's still called the board of selectmen, I think officially.
Okay, I'll go with
It should be called select board. That should be in your first.
My
We'll get
dream
that
is
on
to get
tape one of these days.
My dream is to get towns to use
Just did.
have select board with two names, select and then board, not one. That's my dream. If I had to be Johnny Appleseed across the Commonwealth.
That's the way I write it.
So I think it makes more sense, as board. So that said, and so we want to reach out to people and find out about that. And then as to what the license would have, there aren't a lot of issues in a cable license. The issues are, one, the franchise fee, which is used in Massachusetts under the law, the application of state law to federal law, used for PEG access operations. In the rest of the country, you can use it for anything. And it's good that it can only be used for PEG access, because then Massachusetts has the best community television in the Commonwealth. And there's no better use for building community spirit and local business, because as you said, it's arts and culture. It's telling parents what are some events they can bring their kids to. It's putting a highlight on local business. You have some, a lot of, I'm sure, community businesses, local businesses, and you can have a little show like Chronicle where you highlight who they are. And so that PEG access operating support now is 1.5% of the company's gross revenues.
Correct.
The Cable Act allows up to 5% of gross revenues. And the Charter had, we may not get a fight for going up, and you don't necessarily have to go to 5%. There's a reason sometimes to be a little below. But that would mean, 3 times as much funding that would come in. Now, they put that on a bill and say, this is the franchise fee? They will. But whether or not people end up paying that is a totally different matter. I mean, they could put on their bill a million things, what they pay their lawyers and accountants, or what they pay for their rent otherwise. But the fact they put on the bill doesn't mean it's not a tax. They don't take it from subscribers and give it to the town. That it's their cost of doing business, and where they get that money from is up to them. And what they charge for a price, if there's more video competition and they can't raise their rates, that's what's going to drive their price. So
Bill, I'd like to interrupt though,
Yeah.
and get back to the point of this meeting,
Okay,
which is fact finding from
yes,
the
okay, I'm
community.
sorry. So with
And
that,
so
yes.
the reason why we're here is to support Bill's effort to renegotiate a contract by demonstrating how valuable the potential for the recurrent new station or rebuilding of the station will be to how important it is to the community to support what he's trying to renegotiate as a higher franchise fee with Charter Spectrum.
Yeah.
And so we've met once already with the heads of the town departments, and we've got quite a bit of testimony from them. And we're broadcasting this to kind of recount that to a viewing audience. And what Bill is saying here is that, true, I don't.
I got sidetracked on that. No,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. All right, so there's the operating funding and there's the capital funding. The capital is for equipment. Now to run it, you need, like I said, a person, there are costs, and you can run it very effectively, and you will, through the town. Capital dollars are needed for, as mentioned, cameras and editing equipment, both permanent and laptops, microphones. If you want to look, you're having Gary Pink come out, you're going to look at different rooms that might have fixed cameras and sound. So you want to be able to cover those government meetings. You want to be able to go out and cover, as you said, events. You may want a few cameras for public access. The training part, as Ryan said, the training is important because there's no job now that exists that doesn't have a large video component. And so the students in your schools, after school and at different times, can learn how to use a camera, how to edit a program, and that will be invaluable to them in their jobs. The seniors here at the Senior Center will have an interest in doing the same. So bottom line is the key issues are the operating support, so there's money to hire someone and run an effective program, PEG capital dollars, where last time the funding was good, and that helps us this time getting good funding. The decision of whether or not there are any buildings that are going to be connected, that Charter is going to connect to, so they can take the signal back. That right now the town hall is connected.
The town hall is the hub, and
It's the
then
hub, yeah.
we believe the elementary school and the senior center should also have a fiber connection.
Right. So so those are the issues with Charter, and as mentioned, the key is to figure out how both as groupings and individuals, people can speak to other people. We want to have one really strong, at least one hearing where Charter comes and people speak about their interest in the cable license, including community television. And that hearing is something that we would build up to so that people speak to friends and neighbors and describe how, if they're interested, how just a very short note or letter more importantly, coming and speaking for 30 seconds or a minute and expressing your interest in community television and building that program in West Brookfield to what it was and beyond can make a difference. And that hearing will set the stage for an immediate negotiation session with Charter, who now will understand the strong interest and where the town is looking to go, and that'll help us get a fair license from Charter. So that's the goal, is to build up to that hearing at the same time to document what those needs are. So letters would also be helpful.
Great, thank you, Bill. It's now a little after 6:30, so I think we should move to this being the second meeting that we've had as a public hearing. The first was with the town department heads. And you can see this is a very small meeting. You see what Bill's going after here is getting a public meeting big enough with enough citizens in it that really is a convincing argument of how important this cable TV station is to the community. And so I'm happy to take the ideas that you came here responding to the press releases for, to support what we're doing now and to offer us a foundation for bigger support down the road. So
To that point, can I just make one other,
Sure.
in reference to what you said? It was always a great frustration for all of us in town government to hear these comments, wherever they come from, about how somebody had a point to make, and they'd never show up at a meeting. They would never come to these meetings, but they would sit on their on their little computers and comment.
Mm-hmm.
This stops all of that. I mean, if you cannot say that you do not know what's going on if you have a cable access, if you have that opportunity to just click on the TV. So all these other things, as someone in the arts, I'm just thrilled. But just nuts and bolts right here. If we can, get more transparency. It's going to be just
Could be a benefit where people want to get involved.
absolutely,
Because
absolutely.
there's just not enough of good people, getting involved. And I had a question after you spoke with, how many homes are there in West Brookfield? 3,000 or what?
Well, there's 2,000 registered voters. There's population about 3,500.
Yeah.
So
population
is there a
the amount of
challenge
houses,
with-
I don't know.
With how many people have Spectrum,
There's eight.
Because there's a lot of challenges now with what people can watch for TV. Do you know what, Paul, how many homes have Spectrum?
Yeah, there's roughly 800 homes that have Spectrum TV subscriptions.
Oh,
That's
boy,
down-
That's really low.
That's down from about 1,200 about 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And or maybe longer, maybe 10 years ago, it was around 1,200, and it's been going down ever since. And those are the subscribers who the franchise fees are based upon
Yeah.
to support the studio. So studio 5 or 7 years ago was making $22,000 a year on franchise fees, and now we're down to 18,500. If we're going to try to hire a person to run that studio in an inflationary environment with a deflationary income stream, we're not going to survive very long. That $140,000 even isn't going to take us more than 7 years out in the future if we could find somebody to work for $20,000 a year.
So if I understood you correctly, you're looking at charging an additional fee that will be on the Spectrum invoice or their bill that will be earmarked to.
They have a right to, if they want, they have a right in the federal law to say, well, this is what that we're paying the town. So they're showing, in fact, what they pay the town. But that's not a fee from the town. That's not necessarily something at the end of the day. Again, their rate is not determined by that. What the town receives for community television is a small portion of what their whole bill is.
Right.
And so, as I say, if you charge Charter nothing for 10 years, for your right of way. And I always make out, this is your property. So if it was your home and someone came by and said, we'd like to put poles up and wires, and you'd say, well, wait, you gonna pay me? You would require that. So if you believe government should run like a business, then if you wouldn't give your home property away for nothing, then the town property also has some value. But if you said to them, you know what, Charter, well, my God, if you would ever charge anyone more, you can have this town road for free. I know we took the road and we purchased it and we insured and we policed it and we repaired it and we maintained it, but just take it. And then at the end of 10 years, if you took a look to see if they charge their customers less in West Brookfield than they did elsewhere, what you'd find out is no. So at the end of the day, they can say if they want, this is what we pay the town. They can say the same for what they pay us as lawyers. So with that, the key thing is that if you believe community television has value, which it does, and if you understand that you're being compensated for allowing them to use your property, then what they charge for their price is their business, because you can't regulate their price, and their price is not driven by what the small amount they pay you to use your public way.
I'd like to keep those kind of questions maybe to the side for now, and I won't forget them. I wrote down that you've got there's something more I'd like to explain there too. But Linda, you came here after a meeting that we had on the street corner just some days ago with something in mind that could be contributory to the broadcasting of content, and that was important to me.
Well, it's free. And it's something that is wonderful to listen to. And so after we spoke, I contacted the folks at Bonneville Broadcasting. It's Music in the Spoken Word, which is a half-hour program weekly, plus all their specials, Christmas special and everything, of the Tabernacle Choir.
So it's sponsored by the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, but it's called Music in the Spoken Word.
Correct.
And it's audio listening.
Audio and
Video.
image.
Yeah, we broadcast that in Munson and Palmer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Totally free, absolutely totally free.
And unlike the way you used to do it, you can now download it from their website and run it.
Well, I
off their server.
called them and found, for me, the person that spoke my language about this, which is very basic. And it strikes me as an extremely easy thing to do, and a thing that would be available to town listeners and viewers at any time of the day, as much as you wanted to broadcast it to fill in. If you didn't have other things to broadcast, especially probably in the beginning of this, when you don't have your own program.
That's an excellent point. It's in the beginning when there's little content that we've actually produced on our own, moving to some subscriber content.
There's a lot of that kind of content out there.
Yes.
And it can even be public access stations even share content between themselves. So part of the plan once we get going is I'm going to bring some stuff from Impact TV, and that way there's stuff to air. And it's all public content, so there's no issue with it being shared amongst the stations.
I've made notes for what it's worth.
Sure.
And to my level of understanding, but I thought maybe it would at least help. And the contact person was a fire hose of information and enthusiasm, and sign up today and we'll have the next program, the Memorial Day program will be right here. Maybe we need to, that's not gonna happen.
We don't have the mountain yet.
Not yet, but I hope that it does. So here's some of those, and
That's great. Thanks, Linda.
it's been seldom that I found somebody when you're looking for information that was as helpful as this particular person. And that is her job. And she's absolutely ready and willing and able. And so as best as I understood it and my notes were, I tried to type them up and do that. So I thought that would be interesting. in addition to this, I know that, turning 82 next month and not driving at night anymore,
Right.
that I feel, do I go to town meetings and imperil myself and other people? Or do I totally miss out on what's going on? And I know I can go and look at the bulletin board, but that's not the same. And
Right.
I would love to be able to, if I can't get a ride with somebody who's not so old, at least know what's going on with the town meetings. And it, not having that available disenfranchises a big group of people.
Ding, ding, ding.
And so there's that, and I would also like to see, to have the ability and the benefit of public access, if I'm using the correct term, but
Yep.
as a general,
Sure.
to be able to put notices of activities at our church that are open to the public, and we'd love to have people know, or at least know what's going on. I may not want to go to Church X's activities, even if they're geared for the public, but I'd like to know what some of my community members are doing, and that, I missed that very much once it kind of petered out and didn't go anywhere.
As part of what Bill was talking about earlier, about having community leaders show up here. So we're talking about church leaders, Boy Scout troop leaders, Girl
Yes.
Scout troop leaders, Sportsman's Club leaders, Lions, Masons, all that stuff that happens in the community. Those, they're saving eyeglasses and hearing aids for the poor and food banks, all that stuff is all part of that public interests.
It's a way of gathering people together that can serve others, but each group doing what they do best. Because it might be that Boy Scouts do one thing best in a service task to the community, and some other organization might have other skills, membership talents, etc. And it's a great way to bring people together.
What Bill was saying, a strong community TV station builds a strong community. And what we're looking for here is, even with a modest operating expense or modest operating income of $20,000 or less a year, if the content is being supported by or offered by the people, and to Ryan's point, that we train people on how to use some of this gathering equipment, like the bulletin board is kind of a written document that comes to the studio. We still need somebody to edit it, copy it, paste it, and post it. But if there's an event at the church or the Sportsman's Club, we can loan out a camera. If you have somebody that we can teach to use it, and then you bring in the content back to us, so we can loan you the field equipment, but we don't have to have a field guy out there filming it, And so we're hoping that there'll be, in these future meetings from now in the next year or so, to bring more of that community together with the ideas of, we have a volunteer that'd be willing to do this, and maybe not just for our group, but for other groups too. And then the ball starts to roll, and it becomes like an atomic bomb or a hydrogen bomb, right? It's a chain reaction.
I just wanted to say,
Donna.
there are lots of organizations in town. I'm a member of the Friends of the Library. We have a
Yes.
lovely library, and I know Ryan does the filming every month for the Munson Library. Our daughter is the children's librarian in Munson, and we have a wonderful children's program going on here. But when I see what he does, and you can watch it, and I think it shows up somehow on my Facebook, and I see it monthly. And what's going on, and all the concerts they put on, and the story times, and the trip to see the firemen, and all that stuff. It's a wonderful thing to bring people in the town to know what is going on, especially for young people who really, the parents are working. We've all probably been there, and the children are little, and they need stuff to do that the families, young families.
It's
And
also
that's healthy for the
like
community.
yeast.
Yes, good point.
Gives other people ideas, encouragement. I can do that.
Yeah, right.
So what I'm hearing is we've got a marketing thing going on. I mean, this is next, right?
Right.
This has got to be marketed. I mean, we've got to
We got to
put
create
together
the chain reaction.
we got to put together all of these wonderful things that have been talked about, of the advantages of cable TV and what it can do for the town. And we've got to get it out there and sell it.
Letters to the editor of the local papers, press releases to the local papers, in church bulletins, in the Sportsman's Club newsletters. We talk about what we're doing and what the value can be to each of your groups. But at the department head meeting, we had the chief of police, Nathan Hagland. He identified that there's between 20 and 30% of the population of West Brookfield is over 60 years old. Let's say 25%. He also suggested that probably around 25% of people have young children in the school, or young couples, young families. And then there's the rest, the bulk of the rest, the big middle class of people in that age group between the two, that are doing anything and everything that they want to in and out of town. So we've got bigger issues with the schools. We can do more cross-pollinating with the elementary school in this town and the elementary school in our sister town, the regional school system in Warren. Warren has a much more mature cable TV studio and station than we do, because they never had the 7-year hiatus, though they had some incompetent management some 6 or 7 years ago. That has changed dramatically, and we're very close with Travis Baker, who's running the studio there in Warren. And that's where our school committees are being broadcast from. And so we don't have access to the live broadcast of those school committee meetings. So building a bridge between this cable studio, which is sponsored by Spectrum Charter, and theirs, which is supported by Comcast, we have another bridge to build. And so that's where the technical aspect of maybe some new equipment and capital build out has to happen between us and them, using fiber optics, internet, wireless, satellites, I don't know,
I had
Starlink.
those conversations about 10 years ago when I worked for the school,
Ah, right.
because Warren's cable committee was there. West Brookfield had some people, but again, it was two different, but they were trying to cover the regional school because it covers both towns.
Right.
But
Couldn't
it's
come
two
up with
different
it.
cable companies. One couldn't, so they were working their way through that, but that was a little bit of a stumbling block then. But for Warren to know more information about the regional school business, and
Exactly.
West Brookfield knows
And
nothing.
yet we have to pay. We have to pay to play in this in the regional system, and we don't know what's going on.
more.
That's right.
So we should at least know what's going on in those school committee meetings and the business, as well as some of the students at the time were working with the cable people,
Right.
whether they were interns or whether they were the NHS kids earning community time, I'm not sure. But they were working with a couple of cable people that were working.
And they're our kids too.
Yeah.
We've got our kids in that
Absolutely.
junior high and high school level,
Yeah.
but we don't have anything for them to do here
Right.
yet. And so that's another aspect of engaging the technical teachers from our regional school system to send us some of those kids our way, and to send some of their technical expertise our way. So yeah, there's some things that the wheels start turning when more people start offering information.
I think the superintendent, Steve Duff, would be a good key for there, because I know, just like in Warren, they got the kids into the fire department to, work with them there. So it's those kind of programs that Steve is trying to get the kids involved with, if the opportunities are there. And he's trying to make sure it's in both towns. If either one of the towns can offer it, he's trying to be that.
So part of a meeting that we're having tomorrow with a technical advisor is building out some kind of a broadcast ability, like Ryan said, for maybe this building, but also for the elementary school, not just for annual town meetings and special town meetings where we need the gymnasium.
Do you know what the school has over there? Because I know they have They've got the internet over there. I don't remember whether they have fiber or not.
Well, that's what we're
That's
going,
what
Or whether it'd be capable of what you need.
we're looking into that tomorrow,
Yeah.
and we've got,
Because the place where they have the town meetings is also the cafeteria.
yes,
So-
that's right.
It becomes a little bit of a challenge.
Well, and our studio is on the third floor of the bat-infested, pigeon-infested belfry in the town hall.
That's what they were.
It's a pigeon, maybe, not bats. We can't, it's not easy to bring broadcast equipment or field equipment down 3 flights of stairs.
Yeah.
And those stairs are steep if you've
Yes.
taken them recently, all 3 flights of stairs. And we've looked into, on a superficial level, working with Melissa over at the principal of the elementary school, to use the stage and the cafeteria as places for board of selectmen meetings and finance committee meetings and the like. But that's inconvenient for town employees right now. But we're looking into the possibility of maybe converting some space over there that could be more useful to children's activities or to speakers, special Veterans Day programs. I mean, the elementary school does some remarkable stuff in our town, and I've been part of those. And there's nobody home,
Right.
nobody recording it for either posterity or for the benefit of the parents,
Right.
whose pocketbooks we lean into to pay for the school system. So good points. Anything else that anybody has? We can go back to some of Dean's pointed questions about.
I know you mentioned the school. How about the senior center itself?
Well,
Kelly?
Kelly has been. I've been talking to her quite a bit. She's very anxious to get something recordable here. When Bill Jenkins was with us, there were some historical events that were really broadcast here, and there's. She has a CD of them or DVD, but it's not in our possession where we can put it on a common station. And like Linda says, we can run it routinely every 6 months. The corset factory, he had a huge presentation on the history of the corset factory that's no longer here. Like to Bill's point, we can have recurring testimonials about the Salem Cross and the history of the Cross residents out there, and the miniature pony farms and all that stuff. You know, there's so much going on. Ragged Hill and the orchards and the cideries.
How about also the lake? Because I know there's 2 different groups that are going around with the preservation, and there's a public
That's
awareness.
LWPA. We're members of the Lake
Yeah,
Preservation
but there's also a
Association.
sister- It's the board. I'm trying to remember, I just got an email about it.
I think
Something
that's
different, which is in charge of public education of the lake.
Oh.
well, that's right. Then you get environmental police and you get all that other stuff that's involved with the use of the lake. And yeah, we've got a lake in town, and it's a well-used lake, and it's a heavily populated
Yeah.
lake. And
There are a lot of trails and parks in town too, that all of those things, like if you get a spokesperson for whoever maintains them to, talk about it a little bit, and then get video of the whatever it is,
It's my wife, my daughter, turned 16, and I, the second time, for my wife and I, just hiked the reservation, trustees of the reservation property up the road and picnicked on Patriots Day.
oh, that's the stone, the
Yeah.
Rock House Museum.
Rock House Museum,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, our daughter got married there,
Yeah.
under the Rock
In
House.
the rock house.
Yeah, it was neat.
You can only fit like 7 people.
Yeah,
there.
so to Ryan's point and to Bill's, if you know somebody that's actively involved with the Preservation Society of the Lake or the group at the lake, and other people with trails and preservation and land conservation, and maybe it's through the environmental arms of the state government, that we have local representatives here that can be in this room when we're having these meetings in the gymnasium of the elementary school when there's that much of a population that we can expect to turn out from this invitation that you people
Well,
responded
can we
to
talk
tonight?
about the timing of that again? Because, on the one hand, the committee and myself would like to move this along,
Sure.
but then we're faced with, June and events and the summer. So, the committee had talked about, but we need to the committee needs to set a date for the hearing. I would share with committee members a lot of great hearings, most of which I have even on tape or I can get from the town. One I thought was great was Falmouth, but there are smaller towns too. And just very impressive. And you get done and everyone feels good about it. And the people on Access TV learn a lot about the community even if they work there 30 years. So we need to pick a date. And then the committee could use volunteers, people who are willing to, keeping a master list of all the groups in town, if the committee can come up with the help of the town, yourself.
Mhm.
And from that master list, divide up, give to people who are willing to do it, that they're the contact person. And then what you do is we have write up a little bullet point. We've already done it for this, but bullet point of what the goal is of the hearing and the hopes and expectations for community television. And those folks go out and speak to the people and say, would you be willing to come? And typically what you have to do is you have to reach out, and then you have to reach out 2 weeks before and then 2 days before because people are busy. And basically taking a line from Paul is always thoughtful and succinct conceptualization and wording. I always say, help us help you with community groups, because community groups, they need more members and they want to get their message out. And if you can help the town create excellent community television, then that's going to help those community groups that can get their message out in a world where people are bowling alone, so to speak, surfing alone on the internet. Connect them to something that brings people together, and again can help them. If you give us a little bit of time, very little time, then that'll be invaluable to helping the town negotiate a good cable license.
So we have to get a good swath of people at this hearing,
Yeah, absolutely.
bottom line.
Yeah.
So this marketing thing, we've got to have something for them to get excited about.
Yeah, we got to expedite it for sure, and we've got to market the heck out of it with enthusiasm. And we were a small group yesterday. We're not a much larger group today. So there's a challenge there of where we solicit this information from. A list of all these community groups with their current, administrative vice president or contact person or publicity manager.
A lot of it's on the internet. You mentioned you're familiar with groups. The town may well have a grant application they've given its community development or somewhere in the state. So there may be applications that have gone in that have some good information of groups in town, but you're going to be able to come up with it. Now I find as everyone finds, if you put the hearing off, which you may have to be to September, people get busy over the summer. So from my perspective, if a date for this hearing in the middle of June, where everyone has to just get on it and reach out to people. I always say it, as mentioned at the last meeting, before my time, but I love movies. It's like a Judy Garland, Mickey Rooney movie. Let's have a show, and then they all get comment. So I think if possible, it must be more to the chair here in the committee, that if you mid-June, reach out, get a lot of people. The question is, if you put it off for September, are you really going to get a lot more people? And I think, or you do a lot more work. I think I'd rather get it sooner and sit down with Charter, because the cable world is changing very quickly. And the sooner we sit down with Charter, I think the better off we are. So that's the balance, really all up to you and the committee of when you think you could be set for a hearing. You know, you can always have another hearing if you need it.
You got something on your mind,
Oh,
Karen?
yeah. So you said you have an article on the warrant for the town meeting coming.
Yes.
What better place when you have 200 people at the town meeting to
So,
explain, this is the process, this is what we're looking for,
Right.
this is the time frame.
That's a
Get a
great. That's,
big audience already.
well, that's a great point, and I'm trying to play to Bill's objective here, but to our reality that we haven't had cable TV in this town, the cable to access TV, for 7 years or more, and the fact that this town meeting is likely to result in our releasing some funding, at least. We've asked for $57,000 of the 140 that's up there for operating expenses this 1 year. If we could begin, if we make that announcement at the annual meeting, and by the end of July, 1st of August, we might have some of this kind of canned
When is the town meeting though?
June 3rd.
See, to me, I don't know, it's almost like I haven't dated in 7 years and meeting someone and says, well, I haven't dated in 7 years. I don't know if I'm ready. You know what? If it's the right time, you know, you go for it. And so at town meeting, if you have a table, I've done this before, Wareham famously, have a table. We have Ryan, we talked about go out and make a great little video of all the, you know, you can put music to it. You can deal with the music rights. And you have 2 monitors there. Or one, and you have this very quick reel of just beautiful places. I used to make on 9/11. I had made a patriotic film in Stoneham with all the flags, music, Boston Pops, thank you, and very powerful. So we get a video, we put a monitor. I'm a big fan of. You know what I like to do, and again, you'll have to deal with the Board of Health, but get the best cookie makers. Where are my brought cookies? Get cookies, put them on the table, have the monitor. People come over, and you talk to them briefly. You give them a sheet, and you say, "You can help. You can really help us." You know, in 2 weeks, we're having a hearing. To me, you know, the town meeting timing. I don't think you're going to get more people. And again, the fact you haven't done it in 7 years, that doesn't matter. Because this is all about our dreams and aspirations.
You might find a lot of people there who are saying, well, it's about time.
So then you come in mid-June, you have the hearing.
Mhm.
I think the timing is great with the town meeting.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put it off because the world's changing too fast.
I think at the town meeting, the interest you see at the town meeting
Right.
with people interested in feedback and getting there, have a little sign-up sheet of it with an idea of like, what would you like to see? Your name, your phone number,
Yeah.
and what kind of idea.
Well, that's what I was hoping that these blank pieces of paper had to do here if we
Yeah.
filled the 5 tables here.
But that way, then they'll be sitting at the town meeting while they're waiting for everything, talking
Yeah.
and yakking about something. But that will give you a little bit of feedback about what people are.
What, I think
Good point. Thank you.
go on what she's saying is that you're gonna wanna have 5 minutes of fame on why we're asking for money and what our aspirations are.
Well, the fact that we're not asking for town money is important.
Right.
It's
And
not,
what-
it's not,
And what
it's
we're
not
asking the
general fund
townspeople
money.
to do,
Sure.
and that would be the time to share a vision.
Yeah, you can make a report. I forgot. You have at the beginning of town meeting, we usually have a warrant article, reports.
Right.
And the committee, Paula, you're great, can make a 3-minute report and talking about the hearing coming up. And we really could use you there. It's building
Absolutely.
community, transparency.
Absolutely.
This is what the hearing is, this is what we need people to do.
Right.
Right,
We
because
have a sign-up sheet out here.
right,
Right,
and
right.
good timing.
Yeah, home run.
I should have said to Eric, kind of like in It's a Wonderful Life when the bell rings and the angel gets its wing. I get $1 from at the end of something for every time someone says the word transparency in my presence. So thank you. At one point, as I'm going to the pearly gates, I'll have all these dollars. I remember the guy, Eric? I got $2 that night in West Brookfield. So,
Glad I could help.
thank you. Thank you. So, but I think the timing was great.
Usually I only put in 2 cents.
Well, so let's move back to a point that Bill made about a video montage with audio background and all. I mean, my experience at the town meetings has been that the visuals that we promote, we put on the board are very poor. The light is bad.
Yeah.
The projection is bad. The screen, you tried to get some of those
So
fire truck
what
things.
Bill was suggesting is that we have our own table with our
Yeah, out the
TV.
hallway.
No, but even at the report, but even more reason to say cable funding can be used for that sort of media equipment when the meeting's being televised. So, I mean, but the answer would be you need to get the equipment you need so that if you show something I mean, sometimes you could show it at town meeting, but and whether you do in fact, I did in Wareham. I did that very brief 2-minute film as part of the town did as part of the report. And you know how something gets done, and you think, well, they didn't really. There's no reaction because I expect you're waiting for a reaction right away, and then 3 seconds later, it will burst out in applause. I did that twice in meetings. So, right, if you're gonna, you have your table, you have your monitor. If you could do the report, I think that's great. Very brief report. And if you have that 2-minute video, the town moderator will let you show. You gotta get the equipment. I know lots of people you do already, who could be happy probably to come over and loan you the equipment if you need something to show it. And then showing that at town meeting and saying, please, if you can get to the hearing, help everyone out here in the town. I think you're being in good shape.
I would just like to say that when anyone I see over the years go into any town meeting, they're in a rush, they're getting out of work, they're running in, they're not gonna spend a lot of time in the corridor unless they bought a candy bar for $1 for the Boy Scouts. So I'm
Unless they're waiting
thinking,
in line.
I,
Sometimes they're waiting in line.
yeah,
Or if
so
there's somebody handing
I'm
out
thinking
cookies.
maybe some type of broadcast on a handout would be much more effective to give to everybody that's walked into the room as they're coming or going, to put that in front of their face.
It's something they could read when they sit down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
this
Because
maybe
what I found at town meeting is everybody wants something concise, they want the business, let's go.
Yeah.
You know what? It would be nice, I don't know anything about doing it, but if you have a QR code on it and it directs them to a video, you can do that.
That's interesting.
And a lot of, and just an idea, because I advertised with, or supported WARE radio
Mhm.
for many, many years, through the sports programs at Quabog, and my boys were involved, during a number of years, but, to get, I don't know if JP Ellery is still doing that type of stuff. If he's still at it or not, I don't know. But they're very community entwined to, I'm sure would support our objectives with something on the WARE radio. I did state inspections for 25 years, and believe it or not, the population, and I advertised on that channel, you'd be amazed at the people that still tune into WARE radio. I think that it might be an avenue to consider something for him to broadcast possibly. I think I'm still amazed that AM radio is still in existence
Right.
and it's still being used. So,
They now are FM as well.
okay,
They have an FM channel.
all right. And
Yeah.
another one too is a customer of mine, Kevin Erkler, and I'm sorry, my mind's gone blank. But
I know where you live.
She runs the Brookfield.
The Apple Radio?
Apple Radio.
Yes, I know you can. know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name.
I could get her name in my phone because she's got.
Is it Sharon Mahoney?
Sharon
Yeah,
Mahoney,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
wonderful lit girl. She, in a heartbeat, would support our efforts like no tomorrow.
Big time.
I will tell you right now, she's wonderful about this.
Good content. Good.
So
Who is she?
whether,
Sharon Moe, she runs a radio, Brookfield.
She used to be the studio manager for Brookfield TV
And-
until she got her name on that
and,
sign too many times.
she was.
Yellow
The
sign.
yellow sign.
She was a planning board member in Brookfield for, I don't know, a decade or so. And now her husband's taken over and she's left, but her professionalism and what we would share together has been wonderful.
Okay.
She's been a liaison that has helped guide me through some interesting events over the years on our board in town. I'm on the planning board. And she's a wonderful, I'm glad it came to mind. Please reach out to her, and I think JP Ellery, I know them both personally, would definitely would help our cause.
Dean, would you be able to reach out to them?
I could, but I don't know a lot about the nuts and bolts about what I'm selling.
Even just to get the ball rolling to say,
I
hey,
could
would
do
you?
that very easily.
Yeah.
I can and I will, definitely. I
Because
can do that.
it would help
And-
coming from somebody that they're familiar with.
Okay, yeah,
Good
absolutely.
point.
I know Sharon also, but you know.
Yeah.
Right, so, absolutely, and we gotta hurry up, so I'll hurry up and get it done. I will.
Incidentally,
I guess we
you're
do.
going to probably have to immediately say, if there's going to be a statement that at the town meeting, that, you should talk about it at the next meeting.
Now,
I'll address this with Teresa tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And I'll talk to Bill, the town administrator, town moderator, right? Is it Bill? Didn't
Because
he?
it's one thing if you do something out in the hallway, if you do something inside, then you get the town clerk and the moderator who controls the room inside,
Exactly.
and that's what I'm saying. But
That's
if you
right.
have an article on there,
Right.
Yeah.
then
That's
it's
right.
always open for discussion.
There'll be two
Right.
articles,
There-
actually.
There's your open door.
And
And you do want to,
A short discussion.
right, yeah, and you want to make clear that it's a town committee.
Yeah.
Because you
Right.
don't want to make it on the front of town meeting, a public forum where everyone
Town
can
committee
go.
revolving fund doesn't come from taxpayer money.
Yeah,
Those are the 3
Oh,
points.
yeah.
That's right.
Ding, ding,
Make
ding.
those points.
right. Well, all right, so we've got some work to do administratively for the town meeting. I've got your email address. I know where you live. I know where you work. I can find you.
I know where I work.
Can we have a contact information there, maybe just on that blank piece of paper at the
Yeah.
table? And Linda, would you be willing to share contact information? We can keep you in a loop here. No obligation. We're not going to assign you anything that you're not willing to do yourself. But
Well, she
Like-
goes out in the daylight hours, it's in the night time. We can't use her.
well, but see, I mean, each one of us has a network that we could like just refer to. If I call Sharon Mahoney and I can say that Dean Wisniewski and Eric von Blyken brought your name up in a meeting, well, that's, you see how the chain reaction begins this way. And if we're going to market anything between now and June 3rd, and then establish some kind of a bigger meeting, I don't know, end of June, maybe?
And I think the end is tough. If you could, I think
It's
like.
graduations.
Yeah, then maybe mid-June.
Graduation.
Mid-June?
I'm out of town anyway.
Mid-June?
Not that it has anything.
We'll have to talk about that as a committee for
Yeah,
a local
yeah.
scheduling. But sometime soon, as soon as we can after the town meeting, would be valuable to get this.
And we would also, if it's
Meeting.
going to make it an official hearing, we would advertise it in the newspaper 14 days and 7 days before. So we have to get the ad in. every 14
Which
days.
is
make sure you hit send.
Yeah, in my world, that means hit send. I created drafts that I didn't send out to the press today for this meeking. So I created the draft. I didn't hit send.
Yep. So that I mean, if it gets together, great. If it doesn't, but I just think the timing with Cami, right?
Yep.
The timing is good with the town meeting, and
Yes.
Everyone's coming from this, so I think moving ahead would be great.
Well, all right. I thank you all for being here. It's now 7:15, so I will call this meeting adjourned at 7:15.
Perfect, thank you.
But thank you very much for attending and all that you've contributed to help us build a momentum.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Nice meeting
Thank
you.
you.